Hello, everyone. Really excited to be finally bringing you a one all of DoDonPachi DFK Black Label using Type B bomb style with autobomb off. One thing I want to mention right off the bat is I choose this bomb style with autobomb off because of a couple things. Autobomb off essentially makes it so that your hyper stock and your bomb stock share the same gauge on the bottom left. Usually, it's just a B for bomb if you play the normal 1.5 version, but here it actually changes to H whenever I don't know at various times. I forget. I think it's like you hold focus and shot at the same time, and so you can then hyper using those stocks as well. So that's really important, and I don't think you actually get to do that if you have auto bomb on. So that's why I choose bomb auto bomb off. As far as bomb style goes, I think that you know the three styles are completely different in how you play this game, and I've heard that survival play bomb style is usually the simplest. So that's why I picked that. And Type B is just a really nice ship, and I'm used to it by now, so uh, that explains my choice there. A quick word about Black Label is that you see that there is a red gauge on the top right. That is basically the dynamic like rank control of the game, and so as the red mode is higher, the game becomes more difficult. And the way that it fills up is that in this game you can actually hold shot and laser at the same time, and both of them fire, as you can kind of see from my player sprite here. And as you do that specific action, then your red gauge increases. And it maxes out at a certain point, and then things get a bit more dicey. And also, I believe that's when a point multiplier is applied to, your whatever you do in the game as part of how many hits you have. And that kind of impacts your score really drastically. So I believe in order to score high, you need to take advantage of being in red mode and also have a high hit count. Um, just some notes about survival play in this game going into stage two. I found that it's really fun to play this game for survival or this mode for survival because, as you can see, with red mode all the way maxed out, things get really hectic. And so, with all these bullets flying at you, these really dense patterns, it's really fun to kind of either hyper through it when you know you can't dodge it anymore, or lead these huge swaths of bullets all over the screen. If you're not familiar with DFK, the hyper in this game actually cancels bullets, and there's a hyper rank system where actually the more you hyper, the less effective it is at canceling bullets, and it also gets shorter. And so that's kind of one of the main factors about this game that's pretty important to get acquainted with, especially for survival play, because hypers are basically essential for you to survive, at least what I found in playing Black Label, because if you're at a high red rank and you don't play perfectly or you don't have a really, really solidified route, then you're going to put yourself in situations where the bullets get so dense that you can't really dodge it on reaction. And so that's where you use a hyper. And it feels really nice too because, I always have this image in my head where, like, if you watch like a space television show and then they kind of hit the warp drive and everything kind of stretches out and you go, ooh, right? That's kind of how it feels to activate the hyper when there's a bunch of bullets on the screen and then everything kind of slows down in slow motion. But anyway, we're now on the stage two boss. If you follow kind of generally what I'm doing, it's not super difficult. But just make sure that you have enough hypers to hyper through this pattern once it gets really dense, and there's really nothing to worry about. Another thing that's really important about survival play in this game is that if you acquire a bomb stock item while you have full stock items, then it actually increases your capacity by one, and you can get up to capacity five, I believe, using this method. Maybe it's six actually, given how many I'm looking at the bottom left, but I don't think I ever really got there in playing myself. And the reason why this is really important is because you want as many bombs and hypers as possible because it leads to more opportunities to cancel bullets and get yourself out of trouble. So what I typically aim for is getting 5 bomb item stock or 5 max capacity going into stage 5, where that's when I really just start dropping the bombs, right? Because I'm going to be going through the laser wheels, which you'll see later if you're not familiar with this game. Another interesting thing, and this is a really great example, for big enemies, when you kill them, I believe with the shot and laser, but I could be wrong, uh, that's typically how I take them out, but when I do it in this way, uh, they cancel the bullets from these big enemies, and so that's also really cool because, you know, you're going through a really dense pattern, and there's also popcorn shooting at you, and if your red rank is high, then really you don't know what's going on, but when you defeat the large enemy, then a lot of those bullets cancel out. And of course, it's kind of dangerous because you still have to pay attention to the popcorn bullets, which don't cancel. And sometimes when there's so many things on the screen, it's hard to keep track of them. When you finally blow up that big enemy and some of the bullets are canceled. But regardless, do you see this? Like part of my bullets were canceled in that really dense pattern because I killed that enemy on the right. Um, that's typically how you can kind of get yourself out of these situations by trying to speed kill big enemies. Like this one as well. You see this middle base. You see how many bullets were canceled because I killed it. Same with this large ship right here. A lot of the bullets were canceled. The thing with this game, and especially in stage 3, is that sometimes you have lots of like these weird scrolling sections. You can see here I'm going to the left, um, and I'm going downwards now. And kind of this is really important to practice and kind of get a feeling for like where your ship is scrolling or where the game is scrolling, because that kind of determines where enemies, especially grounded enemies, are going to come from. And sometimes they can kind of sneak up on you or point blank you. It's kind of scary. So I make a couple scary dodges here. Usually I hyper throughout this, or for this mid-boss, but I kind of wanted to save it because I know I'm going to need a hyper for the large structure that gives you an extend. I unfortunately had to use it there. I didn't do the cut pack correctly, but I should be getting another one up shortly. So what else can I say about this game? I would say that it's really fun to dodge all these bullets and kind of pull off these things. It makes me feel like a better player than I actually am, for lack of a better description. And that's kind of a really unique thing about this game and this mode. I've never really played a game as dense with bullets as this one. So I'm going to hype. Oh, actually, I don't have a hyper. So yeah, actually, that's I had to die there. But I was able to get the extend anyway. I would have hypered if I had one, but there I just couldn't build it. So I lied earlier. I kind of forgot, so apologies about that. You can see here, though, that a nice side effect of that is because I died, I had full bomb stock again, and then I was able to get that bomb item, and now I'm at max capacity 5, which is nice. So there's a consolation prize for unfortunate deaths such as that. You can see here that there are these lasers there's a laser wheel on top of these dense bullet patterns fired by the stage 3 boss. You have to be really careful about when the laser wheel spins very fast, because if you're not familiar with this game, you have to be shooting your laser in order to deflect or to fend off enemy lasers. Otherwise, they just go straight at you and die, and you die. So that's kind of something that you have to watch out for, because it really punishes your movement speed, right? Or it pressures you because it forces you to laser, and it cuts your movement speed because of that when you would otherwise want to make some dodge. You have to be very wary of that, because oftentimes you just kind of blink, you let go of your laser for just a bit to make some fast movement, and then you blink and then you die because the enemy laser passed over you at that time and you weren't deflecting it, so you just die. That's somewhat of a frustrating thing about this game. That takes a little bit of practice, at least, to get a feel for. I don't really have a good feeling for it, but it was enough to be able to finally eke out this clear. I think this one took way more time than the 1.5 clear using the broken, whatever it was, strong style type. I think this took me maybe 25 hours, uh, whereas the 1.5 took me like maybe 1 or 2 tries. Um, of course, that's not really how you're supposed to be playing the 1.5 version, but I digress. So here's stage 4. I really want to talk about this stage because it's very important in how you get the clear, or in contributing to the clear. So based off of my route and kind of just what I've found to work, and what was effective using beginner strategies is I build up as much of a hit count in this stage as possible because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of bullets flying around, a lot of bullets to be canceled. Ending at around maybe a 10,000 hit count. And when you are at a 10,000 hit count, then there's a multiplier, well, as I said before, applied to whatever you do. And that makes your score skyrocket. And the second and last extend that you get from this game is at there's a lot of zeros, but you can see that I'm at 2-1 right now with the first two digits of my score. I need to get that to 5-0 for to get that last extend, and all of that is going to happen in this stage. So I'm going to double my score basically, and like I said, to do that you just need to get that hit count really high and shoot and kill things and make stars and whatnot. Oh, that reminds me. One thing that I forgot to mention is that bees are also really important in getting a survival clear for Black Label, because if you collect them while they're green, they give you hyper charge, and if you collect them while they're gold, they give you a bullet cancel. And if you collect them while they're transitioning between green to gold or gold to green, then you get both. And that's really important because you want to get as many hypers as possible while clearing the screens for safety. And so it really pays off to know the B locations in the stages. I also forgot to mention that as you build hyper and you fill up that gauge, it gives you bomb items or hyper items that fill up the slots on the bottom left corner. So that is I think a benefit of bomb style with autobomb off. And so that's kind of, how all these things kind of fit together. You collect the bees, they fill up that gauge, you get more hypers, you get more bombs, you use them in order to survive for longer. And I honestly, I really needed them because my routes were not developed at all. I'm really just using them as a failsafe for when things get too dicey. So here you can see an example. I was able to collect all 3 of those bees, I believe, while they were flashing. So it gave me a nice boost to my bomb stock. And if there were a large amount of bullets on the screen, then they would have been converted to large star items, which gives you more score, I believe. There's a lot going on in this game mechanically, and really, I think I've only scratched the surface of what I should be doing throughout a run. No, but it's really deep and cool, but you don't need to know all those things in order to have a good time and get the clear. Okay, so here is going to be the stage for boss. This boss is really, really annoying. Honestly, it's probably, I would say it's much harder than the stage 5 boss, but I think, I cheesed the stage 5 boss, so that's not really a fair comparison. You'll see exactly what I mean. This first pattern is not so bad. What gets kind of bad is this follow-up. So that's kind of a weird pink pattern, but here's where it gets kind of weird. You see that these red balls are firing these circles of blue bullets while it's using the lasers to constrict your movement, and also the center pod is also firing blue bullets. I'm not quite sure. It also feels a little bit random, its movement. I know you can move the boss somewhat or manipulate them based off your position. But it just feels like I'm not sure how one can dodge that consistently without using resources. This is the same thing. I try to lead the pod off to the sides because you can actually scroll it off screen and it doesn't fire, but you still have to dodge the boss's bullets, and in the corner like that, it's sometimes a bit difficult. So I saw that I had enough bombs, so then I just kind of used them all. Oh, right. So my max capacity was actually 6, so my apologies for that. I miscounted before. Here's the last pattern. There is a way to dodge this one. You have to kind of start in the middle and then pan to the left or right and then go around. But I kind of messed it up, and I had bombs left, so I'm trying to get through this. But I think it's not looking too great here. Yep. So if I had done that right, I could have lived, but that's kind of a tricky pattern, even if you learn the strategy. Thankfully, I'm doing really well. So usually by this point, stage 5 is really difficult and also is basically half the game as far as runtime is concerned. So I want to get as many resources as possible. And so you can see here I have 3 lives left with a 6 bomb stock. So I just need to spam the bombs throughout every difficult part, which there are many, and I should be okay for the boss. This is the stage that has the infamous laser wheels, which I'll point out to you. Although I wouldn't use my play as a way to route it by any means because I make copious use of my resources. Um, you can see how stage 5 really takes no prisoners. It throws basically everything at you at this point, and everything is really dense. I try to minimize my hyper use in this first part because it increases my hyper rank. But at the same time, you'll see that I'm going to be bombing a lot in the or in within the mid part of this stage. So it's not too big of a concern in the long run. That's why I kind of hyper spam this mid boss too. So I have practiced this mid boss for a while to do it without using any resources. And that's a backup strategy in case like I come into the stage with very little. But in this case, because I had so many, I just figured I need to be able to safely clear this mid boss without dying because I have so many hypers and bombs in stock, and I really need to hold on to them. So now I have 3 going into the laser wheels, which is going to be this next part. This is a really dense Zako rush, and honestly, without getting lucky, I can't really get through this without using a hyper or a bomb. So that was an expected hyper there, although it's a bit unfortunate that I had to use it, or that like I'm forced to use it. Now this is going to be the infamous laser wheels coming up, and I'll just give some general input for how I try to deal with this. So once I see that there are these big enemies that I destroy, I know that the laser wheels are going to come in from the top right. You can see there, and basically I'm going to bomb through every transition. So those laser wheels have hitboxes, and while you're trying to dodge other things, and the lasers are shooting, so you can't really go unfocused. You also have to avoid overlapping with those hitboxes, which is very difficult because they blend into the background. So essentially, every time I need to go through a gap in the laser wheels, I bomb. And you can see I used 3 there just to get through this part safely. Now I'm in the top right corner. You get a little bit of a break from the laser wheels, but they come back. Made a really lucky dodge there. And now you just need to hang out on the left side. The laser wheels will pan out. Now you have to handle these enemies on the left, while the laser wheels are kind of hanging out on the top right. Now you have to quickly go to the top right, because the laser wheels come from the bottom left. So that, you can see I died, but I'm still okay. I was running out of resources there. So you can see now the laser wheels panned out to the right, and you can just hang out on the left for a bit. Now you can deal with these enemies, and I'll let you know the next time they scroll back on. This is another example of how, like, you have to really learn how the screen scrolls, because it's kind of, that's kind of determining where the laser wheels show up and how you memorize, like, where to go at each part of the stage. So you can see the laser wheels are coming now from the bottom right, and this is going to be the last part. So I have enough bombs here to get through it, but I make a very unfortunate mistake. You can see right here. So you can see here that that part of the laser wheel just snuck up on me, scrolled from the bottom and sniped me. And that's kind of the unfortunate reality. I really should have been more vigilant because I know that the laser wheel does that, but there's just so many things to keep track of that it's a really infamous part. Just really, I don't know, non-intuitive, I would say. Like, I've routed specific sections, like infamous sections of games before, and it, this one still is kind of funky. I haven't really been able to pin it down. So now I have 1 life in the bank, and I still have, now I have a full bomb stock, so I should be golden. This is the last part of stage 5. As I said before, it's incredibly long. Um, and really, it just involves some more, not no really difficult enemies, uh, but I just still have to be cautious and hyper whenever I need. Right. I'm going to want to bank as many resources as possible for the final boss, or for stage 5 boss, because there's a really cheap strat you can do by just bomb spamming it, if you have enough bombs. And part of it involves like point blanking it so that you can build up hyper gauge in order to fill up your bomb stock even more while you're point blank bombing it. So that's kind of the general idea here. I just can't die, and I want to conserve my hypers as much as possible. This is a really big enemy that I can destroy without using a hyper, but the problem is that it very quickly transitions to this next part where you're scrolling to the left, and you have these lasers pressuring you. And so that's why I hyper that large enemy, because I don't want to have to immediately contend with this other situation. And when you're fighting the lasers with your laser, it's not really doing the work in other areas like killing enemies or doing damage, right? So that leads to some rather unpredictable situations that I want to avoid. And you can see here that my hyper laser is really doing a number on those smaller lasers. One thing to note about bomb style is that your laser in without hyper is actually smaller. Oh, here's the extend cannon from DOJ. That's actually really fun. I really like these little nods to previous games. Um, right. What I was saying is that bomb style has a smaller laser, and for large enemy lasers, you can't actually deflect them using bomb style's small laser. This is different if you pick strong, uh, I believe, or power. Yeah, I think it's power actually. Um, but that's just another way that the type that you play affects how you strategize and play the game, at least for as a beginner playing for survival. So here's the bomb strat. You can see here I'm just on this right wing, and I'm just dropping the bombs. And look at my yellow gauge to the top left. You can see how it's filling quite quickly. This is kind of me building bombs as I'm dropping them. So actually my net bomb loss is less than what it would have otherwise been. You can see here as well, I'm going to do the same strat, only towards the middle here, trying to misdirect these little pods, building up as much of the bomb as possible. You can see here I'm going to die. Yep, made a very, in those sorts of patterns, you really don't want to move, and I I didn't resist the temptation and I moved, so that was my fault. Okay, so now you can see I have 5 bombs left. Should be fine. I just need to bomb spam this last part, that was a little bit of a close call. Yeah, that seemed a bit that seemed a bit sketch, but happily it'll take care of Shadia and secure the clear. So as I said, I've been grinding this for a while, and it feels really satisfying, or I was really surprised I actually got it. I knew that it just needed the right run, were the right conditions, or I met the right criteria, and I was able to carry enough bombs and lives into stage 5. But I didn't expect it to actually happen so soon. Um, so I kind of lied. You can see here that I accidentally activated Taisabachi. So technically this isn't a one-all. Sorry for the bait, but I accidentally activated the hidden criteria to trigger the EX stage, and Taisabachi is the first hidden boss, followed by Hibachi, and I believe Zatsuza is the final. But anyway, obviously I haven't routed this at all, and I have literally no resources, so I'm going to say that, or you won't be surprised to find that I bite the dust quite quickly here. But, you know, to me, this is, representative of a beginner's Black Label 1cc. Um, no EX, right? So that's what I'm going to call it. But I really appreciate you taking time to listen. And yeah, I would really recommend this game mode. I like it a lot better than the 1.5 version. So, yeah, peace.